Welcome back to Sports Legends of the Carolinas, and thank you for subscribing. I'm your host, Scott Fowler, and on this podcast, we speak with some of my favorite sports icons from the region I've covered for almost 30 years.
Hi, I'm Jake Delhomme. You'll hear many stories on and off the field.
For this episode of Sports Legends of the Carolinas, I'm happy to have quarterback Jake Delhomme. Delhomme became a cult hero for the Panthers not long after his arrival in 2003 as an unheralded quarterback who had not been drafted. But in Carolina, Delhomme found some magic dust and sprinkled it on the rest of the team.
4 minutes left in the third. The Panthers lead 13-7. Daylight come, and you got to Delhomme. Jake Delhomme, 66 yards.
It's so easy now, but it's like, I wish we wouldn't have chased the points.
Thanks again for supporting this work. Here's the rest of our conversation. You had, I've covered this team since I got a lot of gray hair to show for all these Panther losses I've covered, but I've covered them since the inception. And you had the swagger that I think great quarterbacks normally have. Baker has some of that. To get back to Baker for a minute, I mean, I've heard him described sometimes as, well, best case scenario is he becomes Jake Delhomme. Do you see any similarities in Baker with you?
Listen, I do see some similarities, yeah. I mean, I think he can get a little choppy with his feet. I used to get very choppy with my feet. Will he roll the dice a little bit on the play? You're damn right. I was the same way. I never understood, and this always, and whatever it may be, I've played with quarterbacks. They would rather look at the stat sheet and be 17 for 24 for 206 and a touchdown and lose 17-10. And I never understood that. I played with I played with a couple of guys that they played 10 years in the NFL. They were never great starters. There was they were talented, but they didn't want to make a mistake. And okay, there's something to be said for that, but you want to win, you gotta have to take a chance sometime.
At some point,
you're gonna have to take a calculated chance. Yeah. And will he do that this year? Probably so. But I mean, we've got some weapons around him to help him. So I'm hopeful. Listen, I had a great run here. My last year was awful. I get cut, rightfully so. Then I go to Cleveland, stayed hurt, and I was at the end. Listen, Baker started out in Cleveland. Maybe he can come here and it can be a good run. It's kind of be the reverse.
The opposite of your path.
Exactly. That would be awesome. And I think everybody in Charlotte would certainly embrace that.
Well, they need that, right?
Well, I think so. Yeah. I mean, I always felt, looking at this football team, and I felt it when Matt Rule got the job. So didn't know Matt Rule at all. Obviously knew who he was, saw the success at Temple, yes, year 3. Baylor, yes, year 3. NFL is a little bit different, but I just felt, looking at the division, I always said, okay, Tom Brady's going to Tampa. That's a 1 or 2 year deal in my mind. That's a one. I did not think it would be 3. I'll be honest with you. Mm-hmm. And they were going to go veteran heavy, which they've done, and then it'll fall apart. I mean, that's just kind of Drew Brees. You knew it was the end for Drew. You knew it was getting close. And Atlanta, they were kind of teeter-tottering. Where are they going with Matt Ryan? What's going to happen? And I just said, man, if we could just slowly stockpile, and in year 3, 4, 5, boom, we can make that run. Yeah. And we're going into year 3. Didn't think Tom would still be there. Right. The Saints, I think, have done a really good job with their roster. Kudos to them. I think they've kept a really good roster. Atlanta, I think this is a rebuild, major rebuild. But I just think we're starting to make that climb. I thought we might have been a little further along, but I think we're getting there slowly.
Well, I hope you're right, because it's certainly much more fun to cover a winner, and I'm sure to announce one too. There's only so many stories you can write about losing 41-17 or calling those games. So
look, it's difficult. I'm going to be honest. I mean, you're up there, and listen, we're the Panther broadcast, and so it's going to be we're going to lean heavy toward the Panthers, and we're going to get excited, and rightfully so. But you know what? I'm rightfully hurt after games, especially games that it's like those things. We're there, and then I think the team kind of the injury bug really bit us, pretty bad, and it's just one of those deals. It's like I want to taste it. And I know the team obviously they feel the same way, but calling a game, it's fun.
Super Bowl 38 was on, I don't know, a NFL Network or something the other day, and so I rewatched the fourth quarter. You threw for 211 yards in the fourth quarter alone, which was remarkable. But, of course, y'all lost 32-29 in an incredible Super Bowl.
Delhomme going to go deep down the far sideline. It is caught! Touchdown to Sean Foster. Foster breaks through. 30, still on his feet. 20, 10, 5, touchdown! Fake. Delhomme pulls it down, looking, going to go deep. Has his man wide open. It's Muhammad. Muhammad to the 15, 10, 5, touchdown! Big blitz throwing the end zone, touchdown! With a minute and a half remaining.
The two Super Bowls the Panthers went to, that was by far the best chance to win. I mean, you were there.
Yeah.
You were close. The other one turned out, maybe should have won it, but really got beat by 2 touchdowns. So, in that Super Bowl, what do you think you could have done differently to make it change?
It's so easy now, but it's like, I wish we wouldn't have chased points. I wish we would have kicked extra points, because I think it's a little different story. And look, he probably still would have made it. But if Adam Vinatieri is losing the game instead of it being tied, if he misses, we're going to overtime.
Yeah.
So, and we chased points in that particular game, trying to, catch up.
2-point conversions.
2-point conversions. Yeah. And listen, that was a hard game. Like that defense for New England, it was nightmarish. They were so big, so long, so good, so technical, and we couldn't run the ball. But I'll never forget Dan Henning, and I'm a big Dan. I love Dan. Dan, now that you're removed and you go back and you think of the things that he did, he told us that's 2 weeks leading up to the game, and he was so prophetic in how he said the game was going to go, and just he did little things like. Dan, for 2 weeks, did not call Bill Belichick Bill Belichick. He called him Little Billy. Because Dan was with Bill Belichick for years. They were teammates. They were coaches together, because that's under the whole Bill Parcells. So he called him Little Billy.
Little Billy.
And that was done on purpose. That was done in our mind, we're playing against Little Billy. We're playing against Little Billy. And he just all week long, he was like, men, the first quarter, it's going to be like hitting your head against the wall. They're big, man. They're gonna cause us fits. The second quarter, we're gonna wear their big behinds down a little bit, and we're gonna get something happen. Because he knew, it's gonna be warmer. It's being Houston. They had been up in the snow and all that, and that's how we were. And then he goes, we're gonna go to halftime, and they're gonna be able to recover because it's Super Bowl. It's a whole lot longer. Third quarter is gonna be difficult. He said, and men in the fourth quarter, we're going to wear them out. He said, and we're going to beat them. And if you go back to the game, I mean, that's kind of
very, very close to the way it worked out.
Yeah, because I remember the first quarter, and I'm like, I'm dropping back to pass. I'm not seeing much. I'm getting grabbed, hit. I'm handing to Stephen Davis. I have the best seat in the house. I'm not seeing much for him to run through. I remember he looked at me in the second quarter. I mean, because we're all pretty prideful. And he was like, Jake, what we seeing? What's going on here? And I was like, Steven, just keep going. Just keep going. And we were able to pop a couple of things before the half real quick. And third quarter the same way, kind of back and forth. Defense did a good job of keeping us in the game. And, went down to the end.
Tom Brady was on the other side, unfortunately, too, right?
And he's still on the other side. That's what blows my mind.
I mean, he's not much different in age than you, is
like
it?
2 years older, 2.5, maybe 3 years older. It blows my mind. But, look, I give him credit. I mean, this guy, he's special. He's just different. He's special, and he's good. He's good. I mean, I watched even the last preseason game he played in this past week. Mm-hmm. He drops back. He throws a comeback to Julio Jones, and the arm looked the same. It was just like, wow. It looked great, and he's 45 years old.
He retired for 40 days, I think it was, and then I don't know what happened. Got tired of something.
So got tired of, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I don't know this, but I think in those 40 days they planned a family vacation, and I think Mama wasn't letting him kind of go back on it. So
right.
I think there's no doubt that's what happened.
That you can go back, but you have to take these 2 weeks in August or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Bro Bridge, you were speaking about there briefly. I visited it once when you guys had your Super Bowl year, and it's a unique place. Is it still nicknamed the crawfish capital of the world?
It's still nicknamed the crawfish capital of the world.
All right.
Yeah.
So, and that's where the live crawfish came from that you had shipped up here?
Somewhere. One of those. I mean,
Somewhere.
we got that.
How do you describe Bro Bridge and your accent and just sort of the way how you grew up? And
listen, I grew up on the outskirts of Bro Bridge and the outskirts of Lafayette, and I went to school in Lafayette, high school, college, and everything. And Lafayette's a town. Gosh, the population now, I guess it's about 120, 140,000 people. A really nice sized little city, and they have everything you want. I mean, from the Ruth Chris Steakhouse to all the seafood. They've got the Lululemon stores. They've got this and that. Lafayette's a really great place. And the surrounding area, I guess you could say, from the Lake Norman to the Lake Wiley area, you're looking close to, 500, 700, 600,000 people. So it's pretty nice. But we have a true culture back where we're from. We're fun-loving people. We love to – family is very, very, very important. Family and religion. And food.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's always well, let's get together, let's cook, let's do this, and festivals and music and things of that nature. It's always something to do. It just has a deep history of culture and the family, and it's just it's a wonderful place. I hate to say it, it's almost kind of grown a little too much for me. Like my girls, it's a lot busier for them than I guess when I grew up. But so many people from those surrounding areas, they don't live in the little rural towns anymore, the farming towns and stuff. They've kind of moved into Lafayette. They moved into the city and stuff like that. So a lot of friends, when they come, I think they're surprised because they're like, "Oh, wait a minute! I didn't expect it to be like this."
Yeah, it's almost cosmopolitan the way you're describing
you can
Cajun cosmopolitan.
Exactly, but it still has that deep family, kind of history, that root system there.
And you still live near your parents?
I live next door to my parents.
Still next door?
Yeah, it was
really?
family property. My grandfather was a cattleman farmer. He spoke better French than English. Had a lot of property. Couldn't read or write, but that's where I grew up, and I got some land. Dad gave us some land, and I loved it. And I was worried. I didn't know how when we moved back home. We were here from 2003 through June of 10. Moved to Cleveland, and my girls grew up in a cul-de-sac neighborhood. I mean, that's what they grew up in.
That's true. Yeah.
And we had an open door policy. Like the kids in the neighborhood, like come to the house. I mean, that's what it was. And I was like, man, I gotta move them back home. I mean, we live off of a highway. I mean, we don't have neighbors, and they haven't missed a beat. It was never an issue, and so it's nice to have a little land, and we still want all their friends to come over, and they still use our house as if it's their own. So it's that's.
Do you cook? I mean, are you like one of these guys that do crawfish boils?
Yes, I can do all that. I can cook. But my wife, not only can she cook, she loves to cook.
Carrie.
And so I'm spoiled in that regard. Like my dad's a great cook, my brother's a great cook, my mom, but the men cook a lot back in South Louisiana. Right. And a lot had to do with the hunting camps and the fishing camps. And they would always go to the camp and stuff like that. But yeah, so, but I'm more than comfortable moving around in the kitchen and eating and things like that, and eating good food and fixing good food. More than comfortable.
You told a story. I hope you wouldn't mind repeating here, but it was the one about the Dallas playoff. Y'all played? Yeah, you played Dallas in 2003. Well, that was the
we lost to them in Dallas.
That was the keep pounding game. Was the playoff game?
And the playoff game 2 months later was the keep pounding game.
Right.
Yeah.
And so was it in the playoff game that Moose and you had that interaction? So tell me that one again.
Yeah. So, gosh, it's we're playing Dallas in the playoffs, and we're up. I think it's 10-0. I know it was the second quarter. It was 3rd and 10 from the 23. So we're going in. That's not a good 3rd and 10 from the 23. They're going to play coverage. I mean, that's really not you don't want to throw it much in there. I mean, you have to, maybe you take a shot, but then check it down. So the play comes in, and I remember looking at my wristband, and I'm like, God, I made a face. And Moose was next to me, or he was directly across from me. And he was like, what? And I said, bong. And he goes, F that. Change it. And I thought about it. And
now, what was the play?
It was 32F bong.
Okay, which means
it's basically it's a wham. It's a quick hitting play where we're gonna take the tight end. He'll kind of zigzag motion, or was it Brad Hoover? One of them zigzag motion, and you're gonna let like the nose guard come free. It's almost like a trap, and you're gonna bong. You're gonna hit him, and it's a quick hitter right past
running
him.
Play. Though.
So up the middle running play.
Oh, the most boring play.
Yes.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I said, no, we're gonna run it. Just run it. We're in field goal range. We're in control. Because our defense was stopping them.
Moose wanted to change it to a throw.
Well, we all did. You know what I mean? Like, and so sure enough, I hand off Stephen Davis up the middle. Everybody's blocked, sealed. He cuts to the left, and he goes down the sidelines.
And Delhomme, now 3rd and 10 from the 23-yard line. They're going to keep it on the ground, and Davis is going to spin to the outside and go in for the touchdown.
I don't know if you remember, he sticks the ball out, and he high knees from like the 7 on in. Like, there's nobody around him. And like the crowd is going nuts, and we all in the end zone celebrating, and we're running off. And Moose puts his arm around me, and he's like, "I told you not to change that play. I told you not to change that play." And so it's just things like that happen in a game, and it's like, oh my gosh, how dumb would I have been if I'd have changed the play?
Did you ever change plays?
Not often. Yeah. I mean, we were lucky enough. I had free reign. Like if ever we had 2-minute, we had something called red ball, and that was our 2-minute with Dan Henning, and it was simple but so effective, and everybody knew it. Everybody could play wherever you were at. You lined up, so you knew all four. Everybody knew all 4 positions. So Moose could be the receiver on the right on the next play. He just so happens to end up on the slot on the left, and Steve's on the right. Didn't matter. The plays never changed. I would signal a number, and everybody knew them. That was effective for us because back then, before a team could challenge, and like there's a play that might have been questionable. We played the Saints one time, and Keyshawn bobbled a pass, and it was a first down inside the 10. And you knew they called it complete, but it didn't look complete. And I remember Mike McCoy immediately, red ball, red ball, red ball. So I knew, but that was so great. When we lined up, you were there. Called a play, throw it to D'Angelo, touchdown. Just so easy. We did it against Denver. Those were the things that was the Dan Henning approach. I know Davidson was there, but we carried that stuff over.
That's the kind of stuff that a veteran can do, though, that, a rookie or somebody just is not ready to do that yet.
And that's the thing, though. It wasn't hard. It was,
simplistic a little bit.
We did what we were supposed to do. It didn't matter because in Dan's mind, we were going to out-execute him. And that's what we did. And then I watched Drew Brees for years run the same plays over and over with Sean Payton. It's the same plays. They get inside the 20-yard line. They're running 4 verticals. And Drew is going to make whoever right with the football. He's going to back shoulder or throw it a certain way, pump a certain way. I mean, and everybody's going to be on their land marker. They're going to line up and run to the same. It's
frustrating because it always worked.
It worked.
Like, yeah.
It worked.
God, Brees was so good against the
really
Panthers.
Good. Really good.
He was count me as one of your big fans on the Bojangles ads. I thought those were hilarious. I think my favorite was the one that was a spoof of Jerry Maguire.
Show me the chicken. Look, Dave, I like you. I really do. But there's something I gotta hear. Show me the chicken.
Show you the chicken?
No. That was done at a house in South Charlotte. They rented someone's house, and that was comical. It takes 4 hours to film a 30-second commercial. And, it was show me the chicken. And I can be silly and I can act stupid. And yeah, so that was pretty good. And I think the nice touch, Steve ended it at the end.
Right.
With, you had me.
Or you complete me.
You complete me.
You complete me because of the
not that you had me.
Right?
You complete me. Yeah. And with his snarky, sarcastic way. I mean, it was just, it was good. That I really and truly enjoyed doing that.
How many of those did you do?
We did a bunch. We did the Mean Joe Green. We did the Dukes of Hazzard. We did If You Build It, They Will Come. We did the Show Me the Chicken. I get teased to this day by buddies all the time. I was the defender of the biscuit, the freshly made biscuit. So I wore a cape And I would
That might not have been one of the
that might
best
not have been
ones.
that might not have been one of the best ones, but yeah, it was a. So we did, and then we did something with Thomas Davis. I totally forgot we did one with him because he was teasing me about it. He was talking about it yesterday. But yeah, it was. Those are fun. Those are fun. The Bojangles people were good people.
They were, and those probably sold them a lot of biscuits because they were really, and they were regional, I guess. I mean, you're Louisiana.
Yeah, we had
people.
Popeyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did not have Bojangles.
That was Bojangles, a North Carolina company. So yeah.
Show me the chicken.
Come on, say it like you mean it.
Show me the chicken.
Congratulations, you're still my agent. You complete me.
Jake, you worked very hard as a quarterback, but also were known for playing very hard as a prankster. So tell me about your sort of, some of your greatest hits, I guess, in the locker room.
Listen, I'm the baby on one side of the family of 21 grandchildren. So to say I got picked on would be putting it mildly. And I had an older brother, 5 years older. He played football and he played college football, and I was always around, and I got beat and picked on, and I saw pranks and jokes. So I love pranks and jokes and things like that. And so a locker room I always thought was just sacred ground. And here we are, we're grown-ups getting paid a king's ransom to play a kid's game. And, you have to keep it light sometimes. And so we played a lot of pranks, a lot of jokes. And one of the ones that was classic, especially in Carolina, was when someone went to use the restroom, because it's you're in a locker room and then there's the restrooms. There's, 4 stalls and doors. And when somebody had to go to the restroom, there was always a big Gatorade, empty Gatorade kind of tub that you fill water up in, and somebody would go in the cold tub and scoop up the cold water and padoosh right over the top. And so you just kind of knew better if not to do it and use the restroom, or you needed to find a hidden bathroom. And they always tried to get me. I mean, I was the one that they tried to get me on a lot of things.
You were an instigator.
Very much so.
You were the padoosh guy.
Yes, 100% instigator. And one day, I had an idea, and I had on my sweatpants that were big, and I hid something in my sweatpants, and I said it on purpose, like, we're going to a meeting in like 10 minutes. Okay, I got to use the restroom real quick. And so I take off. Well, sure enough, you could hear a whisper like little girls. And I knew. And sure enough, they came over the top, and the water hit, and they all laughing. Well, I had an umbrella in my pants pocket. I hid, and I opened it, and I just sat on the toilet with the umbrella over me. And I stood up, and I had the umbrella up, and their faces, they were so pissed. They were like, you got to be kidding me. And I just, I talked a lot of smack about, you can never get me, and something like that. And so you were always looking to do something. And one day I came up with one, and I loved it. I thought it was Fridays, it's short yardage and goal line. That's kind of what's put in. Yes, you go over first and second down, and then you go over third down, red zone. You do all that, but you install your short yardage and goal line. Well, that, in essence, that's a lot for the offensive lineman. It's not necessarily for the quarterback and stuff. If I had to make one run check, but I knew it like the back of my hand. So it's a play to the right, a play to the left. It's so minimal. And so, you're in meetings for 2.5 hours. Guys, get up, go to the restroom real quick, come right back, back and forth. So I went out, and I had some deer urine that I don't remember if it was Brad Hoover or somebody brought it to me, or one of the equipment managers, that I guess people would spray on themselves when they would go hunting to attract the bucks. Okay. So I went and I sprayed the collar of the jerseys, the practice jerseys of all the offensive linemen. I say all of them. There's only 9 on our and maybe Brad Hoover's also maybe, or whatever. I can't. And sure enough, you come out and it's a rush to get out to Friday practice, and it's usually a little more pep in the step on Friday. And sure enough, they start to put the jerseys on, and you can just hear, "Damn it, Jackie! Damn it, Donnie!" That's the 2 equipment managers. "These jerseys, did y'all wash them from yesterday?" And just on and on. And a few of us knew, and like just hurried up, put my helmet on, and like walked out. And those are the things that you just, I don't know, you'd come up with stuff, and there was so many. Steve Smith was a big one on jokes, and yeah,
giving or receiving.
Oh, he was a big time. Steve was. You knew better than to mess with Steve.
Well, I was going to say...
Because he would go to at all costs. Because out of anybody who didn't need to worry about preparing for a game, Steve didn't need to worry because he was going to be better than anybody else. I had to worry. So there was a small window. But Steve, he was one, he could be ruthless. And he enjoyed it and loved it. So we had a good time in that locker room.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. But it was I don't know how to explain it. It was just, there wasn't, nobody was immune to it. Everybody was fair game. I mean,
so you would do something like that with Steve. I mean, you're not.
Oh yeah, no, you would try. You would try to, and I mean, it was always that case. I mean, that's just the way it went. You didn't get him often, but it was.
Did you ever get got, as Marshawn Lynch might say?
You know what? Not. I don't know if I really ever did. Maybe once or something, but I don't ever truly remember. I knew where things were in my locker. I wasn't a neat freak by any stretch, but I knew exactly where I placed everything, and I knew my fleece pants were hanging on the wrong side one time. And then I stopped for a second, and I assessed the situation, and I saw a grain of rice on the ground. And I said to myself, all right, there's something up. So I checked close, and we had a cubby that would lock if you needed to put your wallet or something in there. And it was closed, and I never, ever, ever closed it all the way. It always had a little crack. So I said, there's something going on. So I touched it, and I saw a couple more rice kernels. Well, they went up, and somebody loaded it up with rice. So as soon as I would open it, rice would just go all over all my stuff. And so when it happened, I just said, nobody can mess with me. And I grabbed the trash can, I opened it, and I caught everything. And yeah, I think it was Jason Kyle, deep snapper. They have a lot of time.
Oh, they got too much time.
Too much time in their hands. Yeah. So
that Jason,
not often.
There was a deep snapper here named Mark Rodenhauser. It was before your time, but he was in the infancy of sort of computer graphics. Would do fake cereal boxes that had like the security guys head on it or whatever. I mean, he was just, because they have so much time. You know, I mean, all you have to do is make perfect snaps. And what are you doing in practice for the other 2 hours, really?
Yeah, so it was, those were fun times. And that's what you miss. I think, don't get me wrong, I miss the paychecks. We all do.
Right.
But those are the fun times, that locker room. That's what you miss. That's what players miss the most.
Tell us about your day-to-day life now.
So during the season I get a little more busy during the season, the traveling for the games and stuff like that. But I do the racehorses every day.
I know that, but how does that work?
So I'm up listen, I'm at the barn at 5:45 every morning. We rent stalls, or I rent space at a training center about 25 minutes away, 30 minutes away. So I'm at the barn about 5:45, and training hours are from 6 to 10. That's how most racetracks kind of do their business. So once we're done there, either we have to shoe them or there's always something. So if we're not racing or something that day, I can, in essence, be finished for 10:30 or 11 o'clock. So it's really not bad. And then I have a few other things I kind of piddle with. But if we're running that day, if we're heading to New Orleans to run, that's a 12, 14-hour day, or running one in another part of the state. And, in the afternoon, I have somebody that works for me who actually lives out where we're at, and he's been with me for about 10 years, and they'll feed in the afternoon. And so that's kind of my deal. And, I was in Dallas a few days this week. There was a horse sale there. So you're constantly, it's like the combine. I go to the combine, and I try to replenish. Mm-hmm. It's just
How many do you have right now?
We keep between 8 to 12 in training.
Okay.
My dad, my brother will always have one, and another guy that was kind of raised with my dad. He's with us, but it's just us. And I run between 6. That's a good number, 6 to 8, somewhere around there. But it seems like they're never all healthy at the same time. It just kind of
like football players.
Yeah. And I have about 3 mares I keep in Kentucky, in Lexington, Kentucky. That's kind of the Augusta of golf, yes. the New York, the Wall Street. So Lexington is the mecca for the thoroughbred industry. So they stay there, and I'm constantly I sell the babies in Kentucky. I'll buy there. And it's a lot, and I love it because I know it. I think there's two things I kind of know. I know football, and like the horses, I love and enjoy, and I'm hands on.
I remember even when you were here, you would be looking at this website called
Equibase. Yeah, that was my release. That was like I like reading. But then now there's so much information and stuff like that. I love it. That's kind of my love, and that fills that competitive void.
So do you make money in thoroughbreds?
I laugh. People say, listen, I try to break even every year. I have a payroll, and stuff like that. And if you hunt or fish, you're not making money. Some years are better than others, knock on wood. Last year and this year have been very good so far. So you enjoy the good days and things like that. So football gave me a chance, and I love it. I mean, it's I don't like to hunt.
You don't play golf.
I don't like to fish. I'm not a golfer. That's what I enjoy doing.
This has always been your passion.
I've always loved it. We've always kind of done it, and it always took a back seat. But since I was finished, I was able to kind of make it more.
So the problem I'd have with it is getting up so early.
I'm an early bird.
Okay,
I love it. I am not a night owl. I don't.
What time do you go to bed?
The earlier the better. Listen, if I can be sleeping for 10 o'clock, my alarm's set at 4:30. That's 6.5. I sleep hard. I'm good. I'm good to go. But if I can get to bed earlier than that, that's even better.
You mentioned Baker Mayfield's age. Now, and he is still a young man, and I'd forgotten, but you didn't start your first NFL season as a starter.
Yeah.
Until 28 or something?
I think I was 27 and I turned 28.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, late 20s.
Yeah.
And could not start for the Amsterdam Admirals, right? Although there was extenuating circumstances.
Yeah, it's so hard to make it. And I go to college. I did very well. Started all 4 years. It's kind of ironic. I got put in at halftime with my first game as a true freshman.
Really? Yeah. Same way? I didn't know that.
Yeah. And
did you win the game?
No, we lost the game. We were getting beat pretty good, but I left the field 4 years later. You know what I mean? I played every minute.
Same thing.
So, not drafted, go to the Saints, barely hang on, stick around on the practice squad, and they sent me to NFL Europe. And that was a proving ground at that time. And so, gosh, I went, and we're in Atlanta. We're staying at the Falcon Inn, which was on the complex of the Atlanta Falcons. And that's where every team had their had training camp.
Oh, yeah.
In Atlanta.
Sewanee or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
And so they had one other quarterback. He was 26. I was 21. And his name was Kurt Warner. I didn't know that. He was an Arena League guy. He had went to camp with Green Bay 3 years earlier. And Kurt will tell you, I wasn't ready. Like Kurt said, Jake, I couldn't call a play in the huddle. You had Brett Favre, Mark Brunell, Ty Detmer, and myself. He said, I couldn't call a play because I wasn't ready. He says, I didn't know what I was going to do. So he said, I'm working at the Hy-Vee, stocking shelves. I'm not sure what I wanted to do. And then the Iowa Barnstormers gave him an opportunity of the Arena League. And then he played it. And I don't know if he was the MVP for 2 or 3 years in a row, whatever it was. And then he was going to have one more opportunity to get sent over. And the St. Louis Rams allocated him over. And I called back home. I talked to Carrie, my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time. And this guy's pretty good. He's pretty accurate. He's a nice guy. I mean, it's like, what can you say? It's like you knew it. And we did not know who was starting the first game until an hour and 15 minutes before the first game.
Seriously?
We were playing in Dusseldorf against the Rhine Fire. Al Luganbill was our coach. He was the coach at San Diego State when Marshall Faulk was there. And Al Luganbill, if you think John Fox loved defense, Al Luganbill loved it 100 times more than John Fox. Yeah, he hated offense. And so he sat us down and he said, hey, listen, you're both going to play. Kurt, you're going to start the game. Jake, you're going to play. He said, this is what I'm going to go with tonight. He said, I just want both of you to know, you don't need to win the game for us, but definitely don't lose it. And I remember saying to myself, I think he just insulted us. And Kurt looked at me and Kurt said, it's just typical Kurt. He goes, How about that for a vote of confidence? You know, I mean, it was just like, are you kidding me? And Kurt went in, did very well, and I didn't play much. Yeah. And rightfully so. Kurt was ready, and Kurt was good. You just knew it. And then it kind of went on to his fame from there.
Well, we're about to the end, but I do want you to tell me, Jake, if you would, about your relationship with the Mannings. I think a lot of people don't know that there's a real connection there.
Yeah, so I get a phone call. I knew Archie Manning. I think we all did.
Knew of him or knew?
Yeah, knew of him.
Okay. Yeah.
Everybody did in South Louisiana.
Of course, yeah.
So, but in high school, I went to, my high school was, there was, at that time, gosh, I think it was 5 classifications. 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A. 1A the smallest, 5A the largest. And it was not split public-private. I mean, everybody played, against each other. And so my junior and senior year, there was 3 guys that would take turns leading the state in passing. Josh Booty, who was the number 1 quarterback in the country, who played at LSU and he played in the NFL a little bit. Peyton Manning, and myself. Josh went to single A school Evangel. I went to single A school Turlings Catholic, and Peyton went to the small double A Isidore Newman. And we never played each other, but I would follow. The newspaper was the only place you had any information back then. There was no internet. So every week. And so it happened 2 years in a row. And all of us put up a lot of numbers. So I get a phone call on my dorm a few years later at UL. And it's this young kid that worked at Tulane. And he was like, hey, Archie Manning's starting this Manning Passing Academy this summer. And they would want to know if you would want to be one of the counselors and work it. And I thought it was a joke. And then, can Archie give you a call? So Archie called me, and I was floored. And Peyton was maybe a freshman or sophomore at Tennessee, a sophomore, because I think I was going to be a junior, whatever it may be. And I went to the camp. It's at Tulane, and it's us. We're coaching with some other local high school coaches, and there's only 175 campers. Eli's in high school. Mm-hmm. And so it started, and then it just kept growing year in and year out, and you just develop a relationship with these guys, and we work our tail off all day, and we'd go have a couple of pops at night. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of went from there, and it just kind of took on a life of its own, and working that Manning camp was something I was proud of. You become friends. Those players become friends, and Baker and I were kind of just shooting the bull yesterday for a little bit after practice. I stayed late, and we talked about it a little bit because I missed him. He would have done it, I guess. Worked it, yeah.
Oh, he worked it.
Yeah, he worked it maybe a couple of years, and he talked about it. Good, dude, I love it.
Well, you've got so many great stories, Jake, and I'm sure we could go for days, but I just appreciate so much you taking time to be part of Sports Legends of the Carolinas. You are one of the true legends, whether you believe it or not, and so still see a lot of number 17 jerseys around here.
That's pretty cool, yeah. I don't see many, because there's so many great players in Carolina, but when I see it, I kind of chuckle and just laugh. This place was great. It was great.
Well, thank you very much, Jake. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thank you again for subscribing and supporting local journalism. Next.
Hi, I'm Davis Love III, 2022 President's Cup captain, and the next guest on Sports Legends of the Carolinas.
I'm Scott Fowler, and this is Sports Legends of the Carolinas. This show is produced by Jeff Seiner and Cotta Stevens, and the director of audio at McClatchy is Davin Coburn. For lots more content and to continue supporting this kind of work, please visit charlotteobserver.com/sportslegends and consider a digital subscription. Connect with me on Twitter at Scott_Fowler or by email at sfowler@charlotteobserver.com. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you like what you hear, please share with a friend. See you next week.